welcome Dylan von Kleist, the legend. I said, hey, I'm doing a podcast with Dylan tomorrow, and my wife was like, Dylan von Kleist?
She's got better shoes than I do, though. So.
That's for sure. So, hey, we've done a couple of these. I've interviewed Robert D. Tillesi down in Florida and Mike Phillips, and trying to sort of run through some of the industry leaders and just get sort of a state of the industry thing, sort of talk about your business, my business, all that stuff, and just have a conversation, because I think so many of these young guys, or all of them actually, young or older detailers, are interested in knowing sort of what people like yourself have going on. So easy way to start is just sort of at the beginning, not necessarily all the way back to your childhood, but so pre-beard, that would be pre-beard, what, like 6 or 7 years
Pre-beard
old?
years, okay, so we can leave those out.
You had a beard at 6, 7? What?
Yeah, I was born with this. It's permanent. No, I'll take you to the beginning of my my detailing career.
Sure.
So like most guys, I started in high school because I had no other marketable skills.
Nice.
I could make cars shiny. I can clean cars really well, but and mowing yards and working at a fast food joint didn't really appeal to me. So I started a detailing business. Me and a friend of mine. So we on weekends hook up the trailer. We built a trailer kind of on a shoestring budget and show up places. His father was actually a captain with the LA County Fire Department, so we had a connection at firehouses. And
Nice.
anybody who knows firemen know that they sit around the firehouse all day with nothing to do, and they all have cool toys. They have boats and big trucks and all kinds of stuff. So we would show up at these firehouses. We'd knock out 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 details in a day. Real quickies, one steppers, and things like that. And that kind of whet my appetite for the amount of money you could make doing these kind of things if you worked smarter. And most guys, I made my mistakes along the way. Trying to a guy pays you for a one-step job, and 8 hours later you're on your third pass of something, because you want it to be perfect, and he didn't pay you for perfect.
Yeah. The nice thing when you're 16 years old, though, you don't have any bills, so it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah. It was purely buy a car, insure car, put gas in car, and have money to take girls out on dates. That was all it was. I mean, there was no responsibilities. What's a mortgage, right? Enough to put gas in the tank and get to the location, and that was good for me. So. Started from there, and I linked up with Adam Patali, owner of Adam's Polishes. He, at that point, owned his own detailing business, and we worked in kind of separate zones, but we met, and he was taking weekends, and he was working swap meets, selling products, not his own at that point even, other products, and selling detailing services. So we would go out, and we'd do demos in his booth, and we kind of split up detail leads, and after a while of doing that, I went back to more of detail on the side, and I started to grow up. I was going to school and didn't have time to detail full time. Took a job here, a job there, and eventually kind of fell back into it just because I kind of lost passion for working in an office job. I finished up school and I was working in an office and staring at a computer every day, and it didn't excite me anymore. So I started increasing more and more of my detailing business, and I was detailing guys with private collections and things like that. I was doing more request work, and that eventually led me back to talking to Adam. And we had parted ways, and actually started his own business, and he brought me in and said he needed a guy to do marketing, and he needed a guy to help him with product development, and so the rest is history. I spent a solid 7, almost 8 years with him.
So that was back in what? 07, 08, something.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Probably even earlier than that. And probably around 07, 08. And I started out just kind of doing side work for him, almost consulting. And I had a full-time job working for a massive Fortune 400 corporation in a very boring office job. Nothing really exciting about it. And he finally made the offer to make it a full-time thing, and I kind of took a huge pay cut to go do something I liked more than do something that paid well. And
so your degree's in marketing, then? Is that what's
business and marketing? A light amount of education and accounting, and but I mean, I basically always looked at. I knew I could make cars shiny. You can always the great thing about detailing is this industry is so packed with valuable guys. Like you named Mike Phillips that you've interviewed, and a guy I get to call coworker now, Jason Rose, and Kevin Brown, and these guys that you can you can learn a ton from, and they're willing to share that knowledge. And even more lately, because of the advent of the internet and YouTube and everything, back when I was starting, I didn't have anybody to learn from except for the guys that were local to me. It wasn't I couldn't Google out, how
Right.
to, how to manage, different jobs and things. So, I figured, okay, I could learn through experience or learn through, other guys in the industry how to do process and detailing. But the one thing I couldn't learn was how to be better at business, how to manage,
Right.
how to manage my business, how to grow my business. And those are the things that I was most interested in. So I went to school with the intent of learning how to make my own business better. I ended up getting snapped up by Adam and applying those skills in his business. So I guess something to say to the younger guys out there is that, if you're really passionate about detailing, you want to run your own business and work for yourself, that's fantastic. But also understand there's an entire industry out there that if you have marketable skills, if you have a good understanding of the detailing process, but then you have skills that are beneficial to a manufacturer or to a shop, you may not be the guy rubbing on the cars forever. You end up like me, and you're more in a marketing position. And I still get out there and I get my hands dirty, but I'm not paid to detail anymore. I'm paid to, market. I'm paid to manage things.
Well, and you're paid effectively to, and we'll get to the rest of your background, but you're paid to help detailers do what they do, more effectively with products and all that stuff. And that's more. And I've talked about this in other videos that being an entrepreneur, running your own business as a sole proprietor, as employees or whatever, is not necessarily the path that everyone should take. And I think your point is good that if you have a passion for something, especially detailing, that there are multiple avenues. We're not just talking about, polishing cards till you're 60 years old. There's definitely paths to go.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong if you want to be that guy. If you want to be the guy that's touching the cars, hey, more power to you. Right. My knees and my back wouldn't have held up much longer if I'd stuck with it. So,
dude, yesterday was my 43rd birthday. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm far too delicate to be to do manual labor, apparently. So, but again, like to your point, there's a realistic path that you could take, where you could start out as the guy shining up cars, but heck, you go the path I went. I started there and I was detailing, and I got enough knowledge under my belt and enough skill sets and enough different pieces of learning that I could now apply that knowledge on a higher level in terms of, product development and marketing. And it still helps to have that background in detailing. If I didn't understand how the process worked, it's very hard to market a process that you don't understand.
Right.
So if you have a good understanding, it makes all the other pieces work much better, makes you much more valuable to, if you want to continue to work for yourself and start your own line or run a chain of detail centers or something. But having those skills outside of just being able to make a car shiny are very key. Education is very much a key.
Well, and obviously my whole slant in this industry is at least with these videos, is to talk about the business side of it. So if you've got business knowledge, you can sort of do almost anything that you want. There's guys like me that detailed full time and then figured out that, there's a product line or there's some other way to go about it, even as an entrepreneur. In my case, but in your case, being an employee of someone, that you're effectively, we're doing the same thing, just under a different envelope or a different umbrella, whatever you want to call it. So,
yeah. And it's, it's fun. You could do what I do for a lot of different companies, but what makes this job the most enjoyable for me is it's actually something I care about. I mean, I could be doing marketing for a fertilizer company for all we know. Right. I mean, the processes still apply, but I'm not passionate about fertilizer.
Right, as long as you believe in the product. So after Adams, I mean, I know your story, but you got to Adams and then...
So I worked my way up through the ranks there. I started as kind of just marketing stuff and took on more and more responsibilities. Most people would probably recognize me from doing the videos there, which we considered a part of the marketing. I did product development, all those things, and the opportunity arose to come over to Rupes. Whether most people are aware or not, Rupes earlier this year acquired Cyclo, and Cyclo is based in Colorado. I live in Colorado. So I already had some connections and ties to the company. I knew a few of the guys, Todd Helm, for example, who already worked at Rupes. He came over from Palm Beach. And so I had some friends in, and when I found out there was an opportunity for kind of a marketing and logistics guy, which is what I do now, I couldn't say no. I mean, I had a long and storied history with Adams, and I had a lot of fun there and still maintain contacts there. They're good friends, and they're distributors for all the products that I represent now. But you don't say no to an opportunity to join a team where Jason Rose, who's, arguably one of the smartest guys in detailing,
Yeah.
and a good friend and a very, very extremely talented detailer, like Todd is already on the team, and just kind of all the passion that surrounds this brand, when opportunity knocks, you take that chance. And so here I sit at Rupes USA, in charge of marketing for the U.S. and logistics here. And I think more than a few people who saw me at SEMA didn't ever see me not smiling in that booth. It's very much a pinch me and make sure I'm still awake type scenario now. I'm having a lot of fun here. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting the way. I mean, obviously, Rupes is building an awesome team in the U.S. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better team with all you guys. Both, I mean, I'm friends with all of you guys, and just the quality of person among anything else. And I think that for some of this, you get on the internet and especially Facebook, and you would start to believe that half the detailers hate the other half of detailers, and people love this guy and hate this other guy, and different personalities are out there and all that. But I think if you sort of look at the core people that are in our industry, yourself, Jason Rose, Todd, some of those guys that are just good guys that are doing a good job.
Exactly.
I think it points to the fact that our industry is actually really, really small. If you look at it, especially the people that make up for it. And so I tried, I always talk about being Switzerland or whatever. And, there's plenty of business to go around, both from the consumer level and the professional level. So why all these people are constantly picking fights, I don't really understand that, because just like you, I mean, a year ago, Jason was at McGuire's, you're at Adams, Todd's at Rupes, and you guys are now working together. So the way that all changes is it can be really fast, and you never know how it's going to work. And I think we're all on the same team. I mean, that's effectively how I think it works.
And it's what we look at in terms of just trying to, it's what's beneficial for the industry as a whole, because we are still, detailing is a relatively young industry in terms of its general awareness. I mean,
Right.
Those of us who've been in it for a while, 17, 18 years or whatever, I've been rubbing on cars at one level or another. There was a point in time where the general public had zero clue what detailing was. I mean, it was just nobody knew. It's still a widely untapped market. The great unwashed masses, as I call them, the common guy doesn't know the difference between a wash and wax and what a professional detailer does in terms of paint correction and those things.
What does Mike say? Squirrel or swirl? I've used that line a few times.
Yeah. So you've got this massive untapped market. There's more than enough business to go around. I might understand some of the infighting a little bit more if we were all struggling to, we're fighting over the exact same
Right.
customers, and there's a finite amount of customers. There's not. There's endless resources out there. I had this conversation actually at SEMA during a party with Rennie Doyle, who and most people know. Rennie's an awesome dude. It's interesting to see that our industry is finally growing up. There's the guys who are doing it at the highest levels, and the guys who are doing it right, and the companies who are bringing, valuable technology and improvements to the industry. We're not having boxing matches behind the scenes. Everybody's willing to share info. Everybody's willing to teach another guy, and even down to a level where the operators are. We recently hosted an event here in Colorado, me and Jason, where we brought a group of detailers in from Colorado. It's a Colorado detailers group, basically.
Yep.
And they all came in, and it was amazing to see. There wasn't a whole lot of, hey, you're selling this and I'm selling this, screw you. It was more, hey, how do you think I could do this better? Oh, I've tried this. Oh, that's interesting. Hey, I've got this client in this area I can't get to. Do you mind if I send them to you? And they're handing customers off, they're handing advice off, and these are guys who are, opposite sides of the business table, but they are willing to help each other because they understand it's for the greater good.
Yep.
The more we do for the industry, the more we all benefit.
Right.
And it's
And I've got a guy here in town that I'm not doing a lot of full-time. I'm not detailing at all full-time anymore, but I still get calls several times a week. And so I just have Marty Hopes, a guy here locally. He works for Mars. I just have his text. I just copy and paste the same text. Hey, I'm not detailing. Text this guy or call this guy, and and I think that works. That's whole. And even with the manufacturers, they that whole, what they say, rising tide
lifts all
boats, right? And you've used that before, I know, and that's true. Whether it's manufacturer or individual detailers or whatever. I think that works. And so on that note, I'd like to get a sense of what you think the state of the industry. You know, we always do the president does that State of the Union thing or whatever, and be interesting to hear what your take is on that.
I would say one thing. It's an extremely exciting time. I know if I could talk to young me, starting out doing this, I'm gonna sound like an old timer now. Like if I only had all the things you kids had, But it's exciting. You have more choice now than ever before, and you have a lot of vendors like ourselves, chemical manufacturers. Everybody's competing for your business as a detailer. They want you to use their stuff. But that's great. Having options is great. It's good for us as vendors. We, as a manufacturer of tools and compounds and pads, if we were the only game in town, we'd have absolutely no motivation to ever make anything better.
Right.
You go, great, buy it, and that's what it is. And if you don't like it, oh well, we're the only game in town. Tough stuff. So having all these other options is fantastic. It's very, very, very exciting right now in the industry. Like I said, I do believe our industry is maturing with the amount of sharing of info that's going on, the amount of learning that's going on, and certifications and classes, and people are trying to better themselves. I couldn't see the industry being the way it is now 5 years ago. It was way more fragmented, and there's every guy with a bucket and a bottle of wax was a detailer. We're elevating everybody to a better standard, and the guys who aren't doing it right are kind of falling by the wayside. Yep. Nothing against a guy who is a wash and wax guy, but that's the valuable service. It's just not what the high level detailers are doing. So we're getting a little more segmented, and people are understanding what the different segments do. But I mean, as a whole, the sky's the limit right now still. Right. Like I said, this goes more to you get so many options, and there's so many markets, and there's still so much untapped customers out there that you can hit as a detailer that it is truly just an exciting time to be in this industry and be a part of it.
One of the interesting things I think that as technology, Rupes especially has, the technology that you guys have, the systems that you guys have almost made what we do too easy in some cases. You know what I mean? Like it's 10 years ago, you could easily take your Makita, your DeWalt, 13-inch pad and just burn a hole right through the paint, right? Mm-hmm. And so now with the technology that's out there, both from polishes, abrasives, machines, all that stuff, I think that people that have a lower skill set, and nothing against those guys that are starting out, but it opens up that market, which is sort of good and bad. I mean, it's good for us as manufacturers because that gives more customers, right? But what I think it does is it allows then the people that are better at business, better at marketing, better at customer service to rise above sort of that. And I think what I'm interested to see is whether or not over the next 5 years, if some of those lower end guys, again, no offense, but some of the guys that have less of that skill set will start to then drop off, and it'll elevate the other guys.
Yeah, and I would say there's already kind of a trend happening that way. The guys who are, there's guys starting detailing businesses almost. Yeah, I hear about a new detailing business almost. Yeah, it's at a pretty rapid clip. But the guys who are truly motivated to do it right are quickly rising to the top of the ranks, and they're attaching themselves to trainings, and they're getting better, and they're asking questions, and they're trying to improve themselves. You can pretty immediately tell somebody who's in it to win it versus somebody who's just in it because they think it's an easy buck. And that's right. I always laugh. Everybody thinks detailing is easy money, and I go, hey, there's nothing easy about it, man.
No. Those guys are usually 20 years old that think that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so there's already kind of signs that if you're not set on a trajectory where your goals are to improve your not only your finished result, you're delivering a better result to your customers, but you're working towards improving your process to speed it up. You're looking at profitability. You're looking at your marketing. You're looking at this and that and the other thing. They pretty quickly separate themselves. As we all know, there's a million Facebook detailer groups right now online, and you can pretty quickly point to the guy who you go, this kid's got something going. He's already asking the right questions versus the guy who's going, how should I price this job? And I spent $5 on Facebook advertising and didn't get any results. I'm really bummed out. I think I'm going to go back to my other job. And you go, okay, well, critical thinking. Let's elevate the whole thing. But
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, I agree. It's we've definitely made it easier. I'd like to think that that's a benefit for everybody in terms of if you can get through a correction faster thanks to a Bigfoot tool, that puts money in your pocket. We're happy to sell you tools. It's good for us, but if if the results are better and the result is faster, then clearly we're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're not unique in this. Everybody, like I mentioned earlier, all the manufacturers are definitely stepping their game up. One conversation that we've been having though more recently is that there's a definite need, and there's kind of a rising trend in that we need to be good stewards of information within the industry. If anybody listens to the Ammo podcast with Larry, we discussed this one at SEMA, was some of the claims that are being made. The Wild West part of the industry right now is kind of the coatings, and promise that it'll, survive a nuclear holocaust, cure cancer, and feed the hungry, plus protect your car for 80 years,
In one easy coat, right? That's
yeah, and it's easy to coat. That's not good for, even if you're not in the coating business, that's not good for our industry, because for, again, the great unwashed masses, if they are sold a box of claims that don't come true, they're going to apply that mentality and that snake oil salesman thing to everybody, from the guys who are providing other services all the way through if you're related in the detailing industry. So
yeah, it reminds me of the undercoating stuff. You watch that scene from Christmas Vacation when the family truckster rolls up or whatever. I mean, that's what that part of our industry reminds me of, back in the undercoatings and all that crap. So
yeah, so I'm a big supporter of anybody who will. I'm not asking people to disprove false claims. I'm just asking you to attach yourselves to proper claims. And I shouldn't pick on the coating industry. This is true for everything. If somebody promises you a tool that does something outlandish and it just doesn't seem realistic, and you're a detailer, test it and kind of vet it for yourself. Don't believe the hype in all circumstances. That goes for almost any tool, towel, or chemical that you're going to use in this business. It benefits us all to get proper education and information out to the public, because ultimately an educated consumer is a better consumer. Right. They're going to come to you for services based on the research they do online. If they're told that they can get this crazy result, or that you can do these things for them and you can't, ultimately you look bad. It's not your the product you brought. You're the guy who put your name on it and that they came to. So
I won't make any friends with this statement, but please, for the love of God, stop hitting cars with Bic lighters. That's
I'm actually shopping for a product that would protect my car in a Bic lighter rainstorm. So freak Bic lighter plant explosion. Lighters
sorry, my phone's ringing. All right, sorry, interrupted my podcast. I should have turned that off.
That's all right.
I mean that all that stuff just cracks me up, because it doesn't help long term with that business. It doesn't, and like you said, there's a lot of manufacturers out there, coating or not, that are doing similar things, and it's like, try to educate the consumer, serve your customer, which I think you guys do a great job of. And make sure that they're doing better in their business, which then helps everyone, helps the industry and all that stuff. I'm really excited about, and I didn't tell you we were going to talk about this, but I'm really excited about that Competition Ready show, and to see what comes from that show, and probably, hopefully, others like it that sort of highlight and what Bob's calling it, Bob McKee's we're calling it the appearance care industry. They're sort of trying to differentiate the detailing word and call it appearance care or whatever. But I'm interested in seeing how that goes, and how, once that starts to come out, what that does for our industry from a consumer level standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, an educated consumer is a better consumer for us. I mean, they'll be aware of all these things that are available to them. Hey, somebody can take these defects out of my paint. That's amazing. I should go find a guy. Or I can protect my car for however long. Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to go find a guy to do that. Yep. They're gonna search these things out. So as a whole, it's good for our business that we're putting good information out there, so that they're not coming to you and going, "Hey, I heard that there's this stuff I can put on my car that lasts for 800 years." So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So tell me, obviously we're at SEMA, and your booth was freaking busy all the time. Even to come by and say hi to you guys was next to impossible. So you guys had two major announcements, right? Is that the Mark II, and then the Nano, or you got hybrid Nano? Is that what you're calling it? Yeah, there you go. Oh, look at that! And that's your case. Is that the case back behind you with all the goodies? So
I can neither confirm nor deny that case behind me contains the entire Nano kit.
So tell me about what you guys have going on. I know, seeing on Facebook, I know you guys are actually getting a little bit of crap because it's like, I want this tool. When does this tool come out? All that stuff. I've seen people are chomping at the bit to get it.
Give it to me now.
Yeah.
So the Mark II, those will be, what are we, December 9th now. So we're a little bit less than a week from those starting to arrive with wholesalers. And so for those who don't know what the differences are, the headline on the Mark II is that it's 30% increased power to the working surface. So 30% increase in power to the pad. This gives you more torque, more rotation, all those things. But the crazy part is we're doing that without an increase of wattage to the motor. So it's still a 500 watt tool. So the best way to define this is because Rupes as a company builds our own motors, we built a more efficient motor. It puts more power out with the same amount in. It's like,
which keeps heat down, all that stuff, right? I mean, the heat levels are the same and all that, right?
Yeah, and there's other improvements in terms of the torque curve's a little more linear on it. It's not all just about power. There's some small design improvements. Outwardly, they don't look a ton different. There's a few things. There's a bumper on the back of the tool so you can rest it upside down without it rolling over. The head's been reinforced. A few things like that. But the headline is the power, and it's something that is a demonstration of, I think, Rupes' commitment to listening to the. Nobody, I think, had a outward huge complaint about any of the Bigfoot tools in the past, but it was, if I could ask one thing, I wish it just had a little bit more power to get through those curves and contours. Done. They'll make it happen. So for a company the size, and I'm not sure how many people realize how big Rupes is. They're relatively new to the U.S. market, but they've been around since the 40s in Europe.
And like other tool manufacturers, it's not like you guys make two polishers and that's it, right? I mean, you guys make it tons of tools for different industries.
Oh yeah, I mean they're a huge manufacturer. So the fact that they're even listening to the whiny detailers nitpicking the tool in the U.S. and going, okay, great, you don't like that, we're going to fix this, is a great sign. It's something that really attracted me to this company because that's something I believe in, is listening to the people who are using whatever you're putting out there, and if there's an opportunity to improve it, you should.
Right. So
the Mark II, the 15 and the 21 millimeter are getting a Mark II update. You'll see both those. All the usual suspects will have their inventory and be some of them are even taking pre-orders against them now, but those will be arriving soon.
I feel like we need Todd here with his napkin diagram to show us the effectiveness. So just before you get to the new little tool, tell me about like that power increase does what? Like if you get, I'm assuming that the engineers, knowing that they're Italians, have applied correction, speed, effectiveness, all of that stuff. Do you have that? Just even the highlights without getting super technical.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, and I've logged a fair amount of time with the tool now, is we as a whole in the industry, we've been conditioned to always, every tool we've ever had is when you're corrected, you go speed 6. You floor it. If you take a car equivalent, you floor it. I don't care if you're going to the grocery store or you're on a racetrack, you floor it, right?
Right.
Well, what happens when you need more power? Well, so the one complaint, and this is, I say complaint's probably not even the right word for it, but the one thing that people had an issue with was it required a fair amount of technique. If you get into a deep curve,
right?
The size of that.
I'm familiar with those curves, as you might imagine, given the car that I just spent the last 6 years building.
There's not a flat panel on your car, right?
That's right.
So you get into those values and pad rotation stops. This doesn't mean correction stopped entirely. It just meant that correction was less effective because, as we know, with a dual action random orbital polisher, there's two things at work. There's the orbit and then there's the rotation.
Right.
So you lost part of your correcting power. So you had reduced correcting power if you couldn't compensate for it with technique. A lot of highly skilled guys could compensate for it with technique, never had an issue. But it's a symptom of that 21 millimeter orbit's a lot to overcome in a steep enough curve. The 30% more power gives you that additional torque to get through those curves. So it doesn't stall. The pad stall doesn't happen like it would have. It still oscillate no matter what, but now it rotates through.
So then it pairs, it requires less technique necessarily to get the same, less finesse, I guess, because as you get into those curves, you have to lift up and all that stuff, right? So
exactly. The exact phrase I've been using, it's less technique dependent. Okay. And that's not trying to say that you can be, a ham-fisted hack and use it, but you're not going to have to concentrate so intimately on making sure that you're getting that pad rotation by holding the tool with just the right amount of pressure.
Right, which means that you can push through that curve, you can push through that panel without having to spend additional time to get the same level of correction. I mean, that's where the efficiency comes in.
There you go. And then so tying in with my analogy of a car in Florida on the way to the gas station, I find myself using the Mark II tools usually at a mid-range setting, somewhere to 3 to 4 for my big flat panels and general use. And then when I do find myself in that curve or that valley, then I jump to 6 and I get the increased power because I don't necessarily need the increased power all the time.
Nice.
So we've discussed to some degree that there's a challenge ahead of us and that we need to educate a large percentage of the detailers out there that you don't have to floor it all the time. Again, if you're on your way to the grocery store, you can drive the speed limit, but then when you got to outrun the cops, you can't floor it.
Nice. So not that we're advocating running from the cops, right?
Advocating outrunning the cops, but so that's the benefit to the guys out there. We are going to continue to sell the original, what we're calling the ES tools. So the original versions of both tools will still be sold. So if you are a guy who loves your current Bigfoot 21 ES, don't feel like you have to cast it aside and get rid of it and get the new better one if you don't feel the need. We're going to continue to sell.
And now that you guys have a U.S. service center,
yes,
right, that's a little bit because that's been a bit of, not a huge issue, but a bit of an issue with when stuff happens, trying to get that. So that your U.S. area handles that, correct?
Bingo. And if maybe when we're done with this call, I'll send you the link and you can share it as part of this. But there is a service request form, and it's right here in Longmont, Colorado. We stock every single part and parcel for every single tool, cyclos, Rupes alike. So if you have a tool that needs service, we do all factory authorized repairs here. If it's a warranty issue, we're going to handle your warranty claims as well. So and we've got a bunch of very, very skilled guys that can turn a tool over like that. So
that's awesome. All right, so now you get to talk about your new beard massager or whatever.
Yes.
What the toothbrush, as people are calling it. I know that you guys hate that people are calling that a toothbrush, so I won't perpetuate that.
Hey, it's fine. You know what? It's if my toothbrush was half as capable of this, I'd be a much bigger fan of Oral-B. So the Nano. And I've been logging. I'm going to leave it off camera for now.
Okay, cool.
But I've been logging a fair amount of time with it, and the term game changer is overused, I think, a lot.
Yep.
But this is definitely a completely unique tool to our industry, and the amount of excitement, like you said, at SEMA around this was unbelievable. I mean, it was. Everybody's like, "Oh, great! I can see the Mark II," and then we pull the wraps off this, and everybody kind of forgot the Mark II was coming. And they wanted to play with this little tiny polisher, but it's in that vein of doing things. We're bringing tools to the market that help detailers or anybody really, reconditioning specialists, do a job more effectively. So now instead of trying to figure out a solution to get into that tight spot or to polish an interior wood trim panel or something like that, we're going to have this tool. So the highlights, I'll list them off real quick. So battery operated, but also comes with an adapter that you can actually run it on corded power as well. So it gives you 2 types of power sources.
And two 20-minute batteries or 2 30-minute batteries, right? So you get an hour and they have a 20-minute recharge. See, I listened to your presentation at SEMA for sure. And I'll actually have a separate video that I have not had a chance to edit yet from SEMA where you actually demoed this. You and Jason demoed it. So we'll get that out as well. So anyway, go ahead.
Cool. So 2 types of power, and we'll get back to why the name is the hybrid. But also 3 types of movement. So I've got this one hooked up with a 12 millimeter eccentric right now and the smallest pad, but it's got an eccentric lock, and I can actually unscrew this guy. In this eccentric set here, we are including with the kit a 12 millimeter, which is this one, a 3 millimeter, and then a rotary attachment. So this tool technically features 3 types of movement, plus 2 different pad sizes. Plus you can attach brushes. Plus you can attach all these other things to it. So it's more than just this tiny polisher for doing around door handles and things like that. I mean, if you want, throw a sanding disc on it and take out small scratches or dust nibs if you're a body shop guy or doing anything like that. Headlight restoration guys were going bonkers for this. So
because what's your other choice? You got 4-inch pads on a cordless drill, right? That's what.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
And that was, I mean, compared to solutions before, that was definitely a good way to go. This just takes it to a whole other level in terms of you're not going to be searching for a solution when you've got something down to this size. I also like it because it's got this low overhang to it, so you can actually reach into places. And increasingly more, the more you find cars that have these really unusual places to reach into, deep recesses in the grill where the height of a normal polisher with a pad and everything on it, there's no way you're ever going to get in there. So you're edge working, like using the pad overhang to work on this.
Yeah, again, I'm somewhat familiar with those type of areas.
Might be.
If anybody wants to look at the pictures of my car on front, there's two issues that I would have loved to have this polisher 6 months ago. My hood vents, which are the best looking worst idea of that car project, and the front nose of that thing, which is about this tall. So being able to get into those spaces, and I mean, my car is obviously unique, but even a lot of OEM cars now, the commercial cars are the same way. So
and it's funny that you mentioned your car specifically because it's here in the U.S. we got our very first hands-on with it at SEMA. We'd seen concept drawings and it had been discussed internally, but the prototypes all existed in Italy. And I kind of going into SEMA knowing we were going to be playing with this, I had some the general preconceived ideas of what I would be able to do with it. As it was being demoed, it was very interesting to see all the other applications that people came up with for it. People were suggesting things, and I'm going, I hadn't even thought of that, but that's a great use for it. So
you told me about doing the interior panels. I have a Denali which has that fake. That fake wood trim or whatever, and it's on traditional methods that we've had available now. I mean, it'd take me longer to clean up the mess inside the interior than it would to actually correct that stuff. And so this tool would be awesome.
I took this guy home this weekend. I have a Forerunner with it's got like a black metallic painted trim on the door handles and stuff, and so it gets scratched. It's like. Prior to this, I would have just gone and screwed all over it, or cover it with something else because I can't deal with it. I took this thing home and I zipped out all the swirls in those and all the little defects and everything for my kids getting in and out and handling them in no time flat. So it's definitely a tool that's going to change a lot for a lot of guys. It's going to change how I think people approach a car, in terms of how they're going to section it off and what tool is going to attack which parts. It's definitely. The excitement I think at SEMA was well deserved. The kudos to the team in Italy and all the engineers and our guys that work with us here. That I mean, the concept alone is crazy enough. Execution to have it actually come out, and it doesn't. You hear battery operated tool generally, it kind of denotes this like cheap plastic. This thing, anybody who got their hands on it, it's really
heavy duty aluminum. That shaft's aluminum, and I mean it's a nicely made tool. I was really impressed.
Yeah, and so I will touch on one thing. So I want to clarify something. So the tool's name is the Nano, okay? But everybody keeps calling it the iBird. Or iBird if you are dyslexic. So ibrido, if I'm butchering my Italian, forgive me, is hybrid in Italian. The iBird, what we're calling the iBird generation, is kind of a design initiative within Rupes. The idea of multi-power source or multi-movement type things. Implications being, for this tool, this is a proof of concept that we have a tool with 3 types of movement, plus the fact you can attach brushes and things to it, plus it runs on 2 different types of power, corded or battery. That philosophy is something we're going to, I believe, try to carry forward into other designs. The idea that one tool can do multiple things, or a hybrid of 2 different types of movement, or a hybrid of 2 different types of power. So for everybody watching who is saying, I want one of those Rupes hybrids, that doesn't exist. There's a Bigfoot Nano with iBird technology would be the way to refer to it. So it's an exciting tool in and of itself. It's also exciting for what it could mean for future tools, coming down the line.
Awesome. Anything else you want to talk about? I mean, I think that for these, what I want to do, I mean, my intention of this is to introduce people that are industry leaders, both individually, which we did, the companies they work for, because like we talked about, I mean, my goal is to really highlight everyone that I can, because I think it's good for our industry, it's good for detailers to know, and it's good for people to get to know you guys, especially not everybody can go to SEMA. Not everybody got to go to SEMA and talk to you guys and all that. So I love that we can highlight this stuff for you guys, and not that this is a 30-minute infomercial about Rupes and the new tools and all that, but I think it's important that people see that and hear it right from you, because there's been, there's obviously tons of rumors and what this does and what this doesn't do, and people are on different sides of the fence, I'm sure, and saying this is great, this is not so great, or whatever. But I can't imagine they would say it's not great. But so anything else that you want to talk about, you want to highlight? How do we find information? And again, I did a quick interview with you guys at SEMA for the new EMAG, and I will put that video on there as well, so you'll be able to see it more in action.
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, again, I don't want this to be a 30-minute commercial for Rupes either. Bye, Rupes. But no, I appreciate the time, and you and I interact quite a bit outside of video chats that everybody's going to see, and I think just to touch on what we're talking about earlier, this industry is in a very interesting and exciting place, and we all have unique things that we can bring to the table. Speaking specifically to our industry leaders and guys who are in fact, you consider me an industry leader. I'm humble, thank you.
It's all about the beard, man. That really raises your street cred by
If I ever shave, people are gonna forget who I am. It's on us, those of us who have any kind of influence. I think it's very important that we do put information out there to help those who are trying to better themselves and grow within the industry, and all the things we talked about. It's
and
important.
not only an information, but a philosophy. I think it comes down to philosophical beliefs and how you treat other people, how you respond to other people, all that stuff. And I think that anybody would recognize that. People like Todd, yourself, Jason, Francesco, all of those guys that work for you guys are just great guys. And you're not gonna. I don't think anybody could point, hey, that guy's a dick or whatever, or he did this to me or whatever. And so that's really important, I think, for our industry, because that helps you with that sphere of influence.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a company-wide philosophy here. Like I said, I had my contacts here, but I didn't know a whole lot of people outside of maybe Francesco on the Italian side of things. And being here now, August, so a good 3-4 months now. This is as much, despite its size, a family company that I've ever seen. I mean, it's very, very, everybody genuinely enjoys working together. There's nobody's that one guy go, gosh, I shouldn't have to work with that guy. Maybe I'm that guy. If you look around the room, there is one of those guys.
Yeah, we'll ask the other guys though.
But and it's a philosophy that I think that resonates. I think partly Rupes builds great stuff and people appreciate it, but I think partially it's also our appearance in the marketplace and our philosophy that we're approachable. No, we're a bunch of good guys to hang out with. Yeah. Regardless of if it's international sales or the U.S. team, everybody is on the same wavelength in terms of we just enjoy what we're doing. We're having fun, and I think that shines through kind of in everything we do. So
absolutely. Hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, I'll get the demo video up, probably not along with this video, but if you guys have any questions for Dylan, you will contact him how?
Dylan, DYLANV, the letter V, at rupesusa.com. And I'm also extremely easy to find on social media. So
you're a bit of a social media whore like somebody else I know. So
a little bit
me, but that's good. I mean, that's what marketing is all about now, right? That's how we do that. So and then
people wouldn't know who I am otherwise. So
that's right. And it's rupesusa.com is the website. And
you go to rupesusa.com. Rupes.com is going to be the international site. And but again, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm always available. I've had many a side conversation if it's anything in terms of marketing or approach, or if you just got a question about technique or anything like that, I'm always available.
And the Mark II's next week, right? Some
Mark II's are going to start arriving. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Next week. And then for the Bigfoot Nano.
The Nano, the anticipated release for the U.S. is in March. We haven't set an exact date yet, but figure March. So.
Well, in production, and they might find something they need to address or whatever. So that's why you have to say anticipated, because you never know when everything will be perfected and ready to go, right?
Or everybody here in the office might steal the first batch and take them home. So.
Yeah, I assume that will happen. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a great day.
All right, Kevin. Thank you, bud.
See you, buddy.